All right, so first of all, thank you so much for coming today. Today we're going to be working on HTML. What we're going to do is we're going to create a table and basically have a table of contacts. So we'll have first name, phone number, maybe a link, and a photo. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to create a new folder. And I will call this folder June 11 Workshop. And I'm going to go ahead and open this with my text editor, Visual Studio Code. And I will go ahead and create my HTML file, index.html. And then I am just going to use the HTML skeleton that VS Code provides for me. So I'll type in HTML, select HTML5, and I have my skeleton. I'm going to rename my document to June 11 Workshop, and we'll go ahead and create our table. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to have our table tags. So we have our opening and closing table tags. And in that, we can have T head, which is going to be like the heading of our tables. So that's going to be like the headings of each column. And then we'll have our T body, which is going to be the contents of the table. You can also do T footer. I'm not going to go ahead and do it, but if you wanted to, T foot, excuse me, you could have a T foot as well. So here we are just dividing our table into 3 different sections. We have a header, similar to we have a header in our HTML document. We have our body, similar to the body that we have here. And then we have a footer, similar to what we have when we have a footer on a site. So now that we have the division, we can go ahead and create rows for each section. So for the header, I'm just going to have one row, which is going to be my column titles. So I'll have TR, which represents one row. And in that row, I can have different columns. So TD is going to determine the columns. So my first column will be name. Let's see, I have the phone. We can do the website. Yeah, we'll do address. And let's say we wanted to add a photo here. And we'll do photo at the beginning. Or profile picture here. Okay, so here I've created one row. That's my heading. That's going to be profile picture, name, phone, and address. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and insert data into my table. But before I do that, let's go ahead and see what we're looking at so far. So I'm just going to open this in my default browser. And here we have our titles: profile picture, name, phone, and address. Doesn't look so great, but that can all be fixed with CSS. Now let's go ahead and add some content in here. So I am gonna have another row here. In there, I'm gonna start inserting things. So if I'm gonna insert an image, I want to use my image tag. It's gonna have a source attribute. And it's self-closing, so I do not need a closing image tag. All I need to do is fill in this absolute URL here. So I will go to GitHub. I'll just take a photo of myself here. And I can just click on the image, right-click the image, hit copy image address, and then I can paste that here. And then I'll go ahead and finish filling out the column. So the next column is name. So I'll put Cassandra Matos. Then we'll have phone number. I'm just going to do an arbitrary phone number. And we will do the same for address. Okay, so oops. So there we have one row. So now I can do, let's add a couple more rows. It's going to follow the same format. I'm just going to copy and paste this and just change the content that's inside. Again, let's say we'll have, let's do 3 entries here. And I'm just going to adjust the tabbing there. All right, so let's say we go to, let's just find some friends here that I can steal images from. Let's say we have Dee Mullins here. I'll copy her image address, just like we did for mine. I'm just going to keep the name and address the same. And we'll take one more here. Let's say this person right here. Just going to copy their name just so I can have some content in here. And let's see what we're working with so far. So far I've created a table. It has a header. In that header, I have one row with 4 columns. Then I have my body with 3 separate rows, and each of those rows have information filled out based on the columns provided in the header. So if I save and refresh, we start to get a table here. Now the images are big, but we can fix that with CSS. So if you want, we can go ahead and add some CSS to this HTML. But before I do that, are there any questions on the table or how we write it or anything I did so far?
No questions.
Okay.
No questions.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and add some CSS and get this styled. So I'll do style.css. And I'm going to go ahead and put in a link tag here. I'm going to tell its relation, style sheet. I'm going to tell it what type of file it is, text file, more specifically CSS. And then I am going to tell the location of the file. Since it's directly in my project folder, I can just put the file name. And now I have the 2 files linked together. So I have my CSS file linked with my HTML file. Now I like to split my editor so I can see both at the same time. So here, let me get this text here. Okay. All right. So notice that the images were kind of big. So I'm just going to go ahead and target the image, and I'm going to give them all a width of 200 pixels, and then I'm going to have the height auto adjust. Okay, so that should make my images smaller. I'm also going to add a border around the table. So we'll do border, okay, border style, dashed, border color, we can do black, and border width, we can do, let's say 3 pixels. Okay, so let's see what we've got so far. So now we have a better looking table. Let's say I wanted to differentiate this part here. That is going to be my T head. So I can target my T head and I can say font, let's do, yeah, font size. Let's say 20 pixels, and let's say we want the color to be red. Okay, and let's say we change the font family to Georgia. Okay, so we can go back and hit refresh, and we can see those changes here. Now, let's say you're going back and forth and you want to learn how to change things right so you can see it in real time before you actually change your code. You can go ahead and use your inspection tools on Google Chrome. You just right click and hit inspect, and then you can highlight whatever element you want to work with. So let's say I'm working with this element right here, this TD element. I can see under my styles tab which styles are being applied to that element. So we can see that it inherited from T head, and it tells you what file it's coming from, style.css line 10. So you can even go back to style.css line 10. This is what it's talking about. And you can see the different stylings that are being applied. You can uncheck something to see how it affects. So you can see that that's how the 20 pixels affected that. You can see the color and the font family. You can change these here and see how they look in real time, so you can decide, okay, maybe I like that better. So I like Cadet Blue. I like that font family. Maybe I wanted to add a text decoration and I want it to be underlined. Okay, so now I can see what that looks like. I have an underline under my text. Maybe I like that, maybe I don't. If I do, I can go back to my code and add that here. So I've tested it out in the inspection tools, and I saw in the browser that that's what I liked. So now I can go back and add that code to my actual file so that it will be a permanent change. Oh, I didn't change the color. Let's say I wanted to change the color to Cadet Blue. And we have those changes. We can do the same thing for these over here. Let's say those are all in the body. So maybe we want to target T body, and we want the font size to be 14 pixels. We want the color to be a different variation of blue. I'm going to type in blue, but then I'm going to go ahead and select an RGB color. RGB. It lets me here. There we go. Let's say I like this color, but I want it to be completely visible, not the transparent. So we'll choose that. And let's say we have the font family be Georgia as well here. And that is changed, as you can see here. Are there any questions?
So if you wanted kind of borders around the name, the phone and the address, would you just do like TD and then just add a border around it?
Yeah, so you can do it to TD. If you do TD, it's going to affect every TD. So if you do like border width, let's say 2 pixels, border. And we'll do border style solid. You can refresh here. You notice that it does it for absolutely everyone. Maybe you just want it in the body and maybe not. Or maybe you do like it all over the place. Maybe you just want it in certain sections. The way that you can fix that is you can add a class, right? So if I wanted to add a class to this T body, let's say class equals border. Then I can target TD, but more specifically TD dot border, which is the class. Oh, that didn't work. Hold on. Let's go ahead and put the class border in the TD itself here. So I've added the class border to just these TD elements, not all of them. And then I am just targeting the class over here in my CSS. Sure this is saved. And if I refresh here, only applied to this image. Let's see why. Oh, I only applied it to the, I applied it in the wrong spot. So. You can apply it to the specific ones that you want here. So let's say I just wanted that first row to have that border. You can add that class to these TD elements. Or you can wrap these TD in a div and then add that class to that div. So there's different ways that you could approach it. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Are there any other questions?
No, you made it very clear. I did struggle on doing this in the past, but now I understand, I see the results, and I know how to do it. Thank you very much for making it clear.
Awesome, awesome. I'm glad to hear it. Well, that is all I had for you guys today, was just the tables and adding some styling to it. If you don't have any other questions, I'll go ahead and wrap this up. But if you do, feel free to ask, even if it's not exactly related to the tables.
Well, thank you very much. Go ahead, Johnny.
You said you had a workshop about Visual Studio Code, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and is it in the workshop list or?
Yes, it should be. If you have trouble finding the list, because there's so many videos in there, just let me know and I can find the direct link to it for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys for coming and being patient with the room issues.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, you too. If you have any questions, please join me for office hours or just send me a message on Slack.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.